So we have been parked at this location for about 4.5 months now, and there are no water hookups at this spot that we park. There's no pressurized water that we hook up with. The motorhome has about 105 gallons of tank capacity for fresh water on board, but that obviously isn't going to last us for 4.5 months. So we need to bring water in somehow. And this is a very common way for people to use water off grid, is to actually have it shipped in. Now, we don't actually have it shipped in, we bring it in ourselves, and we bring it in with this 275 gallon tote. Now, we have a backhoe that I pick this up with and haul it over here, and there is a water supply just a little ways away. So we pick it up and we haul it over and we set it down and we suck the water out of it into the motorhome. So basically, the motorhome's freshwater tank is a temporary receptacle and our primary source of water. So our pump in the RV actually pressurizes our water, and that system works just like you'd have in a house. It has a water accumulator tank and the pump, and the RV is pressurized with water. However, we bring the water in with this 275 gallon tank. This lasts us about 2.5 weeks-ish before we have to refill it. And we are using water like you would in a house. We have a dishwasher, we have a washer and dryer, but the one thing we don't have is a standard toilet. We used composting toilets while we're up here to save enormous amounts of water. And they give us another benefit we'll talk about in a little bit here. This is extremely simple. We pick it up with forks and we bring it over and set it down. Usually it's full of water, but right now it's empty and it needs to be refilled. We set it up so that we have a standard garden hose outlet over here and a big valve that normally we just close when we fill it up. And we open up that valve and we did some attachments to put the standard just garden hose fitting on here, just like you'd use for an RV. We have drinking water hoses. We bring it over to our rudimentary pump house, if you will. In this box, we keep a pump. This is just an RV water pump. It actually was one of the first pumps that we had in our RV, and we swapped that pump out for a slightly different style, but this pump worked fine, and it has been pumping our water out of our water we bring in for, geez, about 5 years now, and it has worked great. So we have this, we just set this out, and we just have these cables hooked up to it that we hook up to a battery. This is just a simple battle board battery that I charge up really just once a summer, and it will pump all the water we need for the entire summer, thousands and thousands of gallons. We hook it up and it starts pumping water, and we first run through just this basic two-stage water filtration system. This is one of the most common types of water filtration you find in RVs. This is a 10-inch, 5-micron sediment and carbon block filter. So it filters out the most basic things. Now, before we actually get further into the water system, I want to talk a little bit more about the tank and the needs for if you are bringing water in. We do have an issue with algae growing in this tank if we don't cover it. So right now it's uncovered, but we always try to keep sunlight off of it because that is how we can get algae growth. So we have to cover the tank with a solid tarp, and that really helps with algae growth. But if we get algae growth in it, there's a big thing on the top that we have to unscrew, put some bleach in it, fill it partially with water, and scrub the entire tank. It's really important to keep your tanks clean because you don't want any of that growth getting into your water system, of course. But that's what those basic filters do. They take care of any of that larger algae and stuff that could be growing in there. But of course, keeping your water system as clean as possible is really important. Anytime we detach hoses, we connect the two ends together. We don't want contaminants, dirt, bugs, anything like that getting into the system. So this takes care of any algae that might be in there. And then we run over to the motorhome. This system, once we're actually fired up, basically is pressurized water that we could use as if we were hooked up to a pressurized water spigot. However, most of the time we choose to just pump the water directly into our fresh tank. And we can do that two ways. In this motorhome, there is a gravity fill here. We can actually just gravity fill the water directly into the tank. But a lot of RVs don't have that capability, and you actually need to run the water in through the city water inlet and throw a valve. In this case, it's actually an electric valve that fills the tank. Now, if we do that, the water would actually run through our secondary water filtration system. But the water we're getting here is really high quality, and our primary filters take care of most of that. So we're not really too concerned about that. And I'll talk about this in a minute. But basically, we fill the tank with this, and once it's full, I shut off the pump out there, and then we run off of the 100 gallons inside the RV. And that lasts us a good 5-6 days, unless we do laundry. We found that laundry is the biggest water consumption of anything that we use in the RV. If we are to plug it into our city water, then we run it through this filtration system. And if you're looking for a water filtration system for an RV, I highly recommend this blue water filtration system. We got this from Mobile Must Have, our preferred supplier of these products, and they also supply our filters for this. And what's amazing about this system is it does have both a carbon block and a sediment filter that you'll find in traditional water filtration systems, but it has this 0.2 micron specialized filter that allows us to filter out almost all impurities, including bacteria. This has been absolutely incredible for improving our water quality. When we are hooking up to random sources of water, we always filter through this system, and it's amazing how well it works and how well it cleans up the water. In fact, we took this RV to Mexico, and we used the water. We drank the water. We filled our tank from the water all through this system, and it worked great. However, that 0.2 micron filter clogged up in a week on some of the Mexico water sources that we were hooking up to. It was that bad. Most of the time, the 0.2 micron is going to last a little bit longer than that in a lot of RVs, but because we have so many water uses, we have the dishwasher, the clothes washer, 2 bathrooms, and a shower in here, there's a lot of capable water use. So that 0.2 micron doesn't always have enough flow for us. So it will clog a little bit sooner. But if you're using it in a traditional RV, you're going to get probably 6 months out of this 0.2 micron. This system, I highly recommend it. This is mounted in here. We have it actually mounted to this door that gives us access to additional water system stuff back there. And actually another water filtration system that was built into the RV itself that just houses carbon blocks right now. So just additional carbon filtering to eliminate chlorine actually getting to our taps. However, chlorine in the tank itself, we don't mind sometimes, and sometimes we'll intentionally fill direct chlorinated city water into our tank to just help sanitize that tank without having to go through the full sanitization process. If we're hooked up and we're not using the freshwater tank, not a bad idea to actually put a little bit of chlorinated water in there, let it sit for a night or two, then drain it out. The carbon blocks take that chlorine taste and smell out for when we are hooked up to a city water supply. So the blue water filtration system, absolutely amazing. And then inside we even have a blue water softener. This is a beautiful stainless steel canister that softens the water just like you'd have a water softener at home. And it's absolutely a fantastic thing for when we're on really hard water. You get much cleaner dishes, softer hair, and it's just a really nice system. It simply uses salt to rejuvenate that system. We find that we have to usually flush it about once a month. That simply is dumping an entire canister of salt into the top of this this filter system. And I'd show it to you, but it's buried in the basement. We'll just put some B-roll in there to show it to you. And anyway, you dump the salt in it and you let it sit for a while, and then you just run some water through it. We usually do this in the shower, and that refreshes the water softener. In your home, you're gonna find that water softeners have like an automated system, and you put salt in it and it just automatically does that. But in the RV ones, you don't have a salt supply, so you have to do that manually. A lot of RVs aren't using enormous amounts of water, so even that will last longer than a month for most water consumption needs. So anyway, that's the basics of how we do water off grid. The last piece of our water sanitization system is that we use a UV sanitization system in the final piece of it. Now that is located within the drinking water system, which we primarily drink out of our fridge, but you can put these under the sink or anywhere else. But in here, we actually have an Activa water sanitization system. It's a little dusty back here, but this actually goes into the fridge, and we have a specialized water line that comes into this, and this has a UV filter in it. So it actually, zap isn't quite the right word, but it radiates the water with UVC light, and that sanitizes it. If there is anything left in the water, even viruses, this is going to sanitize it. So the water comes out 100% sanitary. This is a very, very common practice in water systems. You're going to find this in really any commercial water system, or if you're buying like jugs of water at the store, those are always UV sanitized. It's really great to have UV sanitization before you actually go to your primary water consumption. The rest of the RV, we're not drinking large quantities of it, but this is our drinking water, and we just like having that last piece there. It also gave us, you know, that final peace of mind in Mexico, and when you're just on very unknown water supplies. So that's how we get water into the RV. But what do you do when you're off-grid with your wastewater? Well, this is where our composting toilets come in. Normally, if we were to have a normal sewer outlet, we would have solids from the toilets in it. But we don't use a normal toilet when we were off-grid here. We have 2 bathrooms in this RV, and we bought an RV with 2 bathrooms intentionally so that the primary bathroom when we're off-grid is a composting toilet, but we do have a regular toilet in here as well for when we are on-grid or hooked up to normal sewer. But when we are off-grid, we are able to simply drain all of our water out through another garden hose. We use an adapter on our water outlet here that allows us to leave both our black tank and gray tank. And with our composting toilet, we plumb, it's gonna get a little bit gross, I know, but we plumb the urine into our black tank, and that just flows out along with our gray water. And it all flows out through just a simple garden hose all summer long. Now, what do you do with this? Well, we actually installed or dug a very simple gray water drain. It's not a full septic system, but where you can see all the green grass over here, we dug down about 6 feet and buried a 60-gallon drum inside a bunch of gravel. And that is a simple dry well, if you will, that all of our water drains out, and we have a couple little PVC areas sticking up here. And this is not for solid waste, it's liquid only. It goes in, it flows in, and that 60-gallon container is buried in this gravel, and it has some gravel in it. So it kind of acts as like a little septic tank, but it's not really, it's just a drain. It does saturate a little bit, but we don't even really get it on the surface, but that's why we have a little bit of extra green grass over there. So simply our water comes out. We make sure that we use all biodegradable soaps in our washing so that we're not really worried about putting it directly into the ground. It's basically the gray water side of a septic system, but not the actual solids breakdown tank. This has been working great. We have been doing this for many years out here, and we typically spend an entire summer completely off grid and have all the water that we need. And we use water like we are hooked up. We are not super conservative aside from using the composting toilet. And it's absolutely wonderful. It allows us to come to this property and stay as long as we want. We just have to haul water in. That is an extra chore, but it's kind of part of what makes the off-grid lifestyle fun. And be it that we're in a motorhome, we get to live that off-grid lifestyle when we want, but then also leave and say go hook up for full time if we want as well. Not that off-grid life here is that much harder for us, however. With almost 4,000 watts of solar, we don't really have to even worry about power and bringing in the water like we do. We don't have to worry about that either. It's just comfortable and it's a fun way to live. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed our tour of how we do water off grid. As always, we hope that you head over to mortonsonthemove.com, subscribe to our newsletter. We send updates about what we're up to and fun things like how we do things like this to our subscribers. We also share a comic every single Sunday that you'll receive as being a subscriber. There's so much more information over on our website as well, mortonsonthemove.com. Hope that you've enjoyed this, hope that you've learned something. Be safe, and we'll see you down the road. Bye.